Following some breaking news out of Athens, Georgia.
2 colleges have canceled classes today as police look for a murderer.
Laken Riley was described as a shining light.
Dean's List nursing student.
Police arrested 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra.
Ibarra crossed into Texas illegally back in September of 2022, then was released into the United States on parole.
We're confident this border is secure.
We have a secure border.
We agree that the border is secure.
And we have a process in place to manage migrants at the border.
The border is closed. The border is secure.
We have taken unprecedented action.
Look, the border is not open.
Fox News can now confirm that Jose Antonio Ibarra was busted last year in New York City. But ICE didn't even have time to put in a detainer on him because, hey, he was already back out on the streets.
You are not safe in Biden's America. That's the new ad from the Donald Trump campaign. Pretty strong, right? So yeah, in case you didn't hear, an illegal immigrant killed a nurse. I don't want to say nursing student, maybe a medical student in Athens, Georgia, and had turned out that he had entered the United States illegally and had even been busted for something in NYC. NYC, they're thinking about actually deporting people. So and the number one issue for everybody who's voting is immigration right now. So that's what everybody says the number one issue is. They also say like half of people, even Democrats, don't want Biden to run. Hey, Pirate X Pirate. Hey, Quantum Epic. Hey, Ma the Meatloaf. Let's go. Trisha. Joaquin and Grace Ferrer. Is that you guys have a shared account? You guys are like a real couple. I see you looking good there in that picture. Hello, Joaquin and Grace Ferrer. You share the same. You're so close. You share the same YouTube account. Me and Katie don't even have the same bank account at this time. Is that too much information though? But that's because I went insane and spent lots of money. So it wasn't her fault or anything. It actually made sense. So as long as I can keep myself, you are here to help keep us all sane today. So anyway, in the news, so the headline, I have that for you. The headline is about this Bloomberg article, which says that a lot of people are dying since COVID, and doctors are puzzled. Scientists are puzzled. Okay, so I have that story. I'll bring it up early in this show. We also have the story from the New York Times that the CIA has been operating at least 12 secret bases inside of Ukraine for a long time. Oh, do I have trash in the background? Where is that? Oh, yeah, I kind of have. Oh, there's Sumi. You see her? Right there. Blurred out, but she came and she's not barking. So that's nice. Hey, Sumi. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the experience. Welcome to the Lift the Veil experience where you never know what's going to happen. So Biden appeared on a late night show. I'm going to show you those clips. See what you think of it. He went to New York City to do a late night show, late night with, I can't remember his name, but I'll show it to you anyway. He is going to be going to the border on Thursday, which is the same day Donald Trump is going to the border. So that's happening. I have more results of AI, and I have a clip from Vivek Ramaswamy talking about AI. Google lost $70 billion in stock value because of the AI fiasco, apparently, or at least that's what people are blaming it on. Bitcoin is raging. Bitcoin is raging. It's at 56.7 right now, but I'll show you what the chart looks like. This is the Bitcoin daily chart. You see it took off in the last 2 days. So yesterday, I think when we were streaming, it might have been 55 something. Then it went over 57. It was over 57 most of the day. Looked like it wanted to make a move toward 58. there is a supply shock in Bitcoin. People are turning around on it. So I have some stories about it. The White House is worried that Bitcoin mining could strain the power grid as the price of Bitcoin surges and demand outpaces supply. That's where we're at now. These ETFs, these big boys like BlackRock, are buying tons of Bitcoin for their ETF funds. And the ETF did over $1 billion in trading volume yesterday. It's already one of the biggest ETFs around, even though there's all kinds of competition for it. So if you don't have Bitcoin, think about it. It's not even popular. People aren't even searching it. It's not even trending or anything. This is all happening kind of quietly. So yeah, you got to get in on Bitcoin before it's too late. So what else do I have for you? I have some trans news. Fannie Willis was on. Fannie Willis, I should bring you that too. Somebody was on the stand today. That case was happening today. She might have had sex in her offices. I believe that's what is happening. So I'll do a search for that too. Give you that news. Wow. Lots of people tuned in to hear this news from Bloomberg. So I'll get that to you very soon, which is that a spike in heart disease deaths since COVID is puzzling scientists. Very, very puzzling. But they say it's because of COVID. That's what they say. But it's puzzling. Lots of deaths. Lots of extra deaths because of certain conditions. Heart conditions and metabolic conditions, including diabetes. So Angie Power Disney says, Nathan helped me invest in Bitcoin when it was 37,000 just a couple months ago. Yeah, that's right. You can buy Bitcoin. If you want help with it, I do that professionally. You can reach out to me on Twitter at lifttheveil411. You can send me a direct message, or you can text me at 650-GAY-TAXI, 650-429-8294. So thanks, Angela Power Disney. Thanks for shouting me out. Glad it's exciting, right? Bitcoin goes up. Yeah, I had somebody give me Bitcoin on Cash App. And it was like I got $100 worth. It's worth $120 now that I held on to it. So you call the Bitcoin hotline. They ask you to please hold. I saw that joke today. If you call the Bitcoin hotline, they'll say, please hold. Hold. Yeah, we're going to the moon probably. So, all right, guys, we'll get started with the show. Good seeing you here. Happy Tuesday. And let's do the intro. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news. Yeah, that's right. I do. Truth Bite says Bitcoin is way too volatile for me. Well, that's the point. If you can't handle the volatility, then you can't get the gains. So yeah, it's volatile, but you just hold on to it. Over time, it goes up and to the right, typically. So we're still waiting for all-time high. All-time high was around 69,000, but we could hit it. And then the halving is coming up. I mean, it's a supply shock. There's just not enough of it to go around. It's like real estate in Manhattan, basically. So you should get some. I'm also going to tell you about Diddy now. He's being sued by somebody else, accusing him of doing some gay stuff. So I wanted to make sure to bring you that news. I'll give you the latest on the Diddy lawsuit. So, all right, here's Biden on what's the guy's Seth. What's his name? This is Biden on that show. You guys will tell me. All right, here he is saying he's not old.
Concern for American voters. How do you address that concern going forward as you come up to the 2024 election?
Well, a couple things. Number one, you got to take a look at the other guy. He's about as old as I am, but he can't remember his wife's name.
Yeah.
And, number one.
Really?
It's about how old your ideas are. Look, I mean, this is a guy who wants to take us back. He wants to take us back on Roe v. Wade. He wants to take us back on a whole range of issues that are 50, 60 years. They've been solid American positions. And I really mean this sincerely. I think it's about the future. And every single thing we've done, I think we've got some good things done. Everything, and they told us we couldn't get them done because things were so divided. And but I think everything we've gotten done, he's just friendly stated he wants to do away with if he gets elected. And I really think his views on where to take America are older than, anyway, I don't want to get going.
You talked about bipartisanship and that you could actually work.
Why do people laugh when he does that all the time, where it's like he's in the middle of saying something and he goes, anyway, like, were you trying to say something or not? But he says he doesn't remember his wife's name. It's a very sympathetic audience. People say Seth Meyers. I think it's Seth Meyers. So yeah, that's him. And then he's asked about the Dark Brandon personality that he has. So this is him being asked about his Dark Brandon personality and the Taylor Swift situation, I think.
You enjoy playing around with the Dark Brand meme?
No, I resent the hell out of it.
Okay.
He barely put on his sunglasses.
My favorite one recently is there are 18% of Americans, according to recent polling, have believe that you and Taylor Swift are actually working in cahoots. And after the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl, you posted this on social media and you wrote just like we drew it up. Now, I have you on the hot spot here. Can you confirm or deny that there is an active conspiracy between you and Miss Swift?
Where are you getting this information? It's classified.
It's classified information?
That's classified
you won't share it with us?
I'm not going to, but I will tell you, she did endorse me in 2020.
She did. I bet you might be. You enjoy playing around with the Dark Brand?
Very Weekend at Bernie's. Did you see how he struggled to put his glasses on? So they're trying to make him look relatable, funny. He's Dark Brandon with the glasses, but he's not pulling it off too well. Here he is getting ice cream before the show. And he claimed, first of all, that there will be a ceasefire in Gaza by the end of the weekend. But he also claimed he didn't know President Trump was going to the border. Let's see.
I've been planning to go Thursday. What I didn't know is my good friend apparently is going.
And will you meet with migrants while you're there, Mr. President?
Well, I'm not going to announce ahead of time. Secret Service don't like me announcing exactly what I'm doing.
There he is with his ice cream cone. So he didn't know that Donald Trump is going to be there the same day. So it's a border showdown going on between Dark Brandon and Dark Trump. So, hey, if you want to support the show, thanks. We got 104 people tuned in. Hit the like button so you make sure you get notified when I stream and you get recommended my shows. I deleted the show from yesterday because I didn't know if I could show the Burning Man. Somebody made a meme about it. People are making fun of the guy. I don't think it's anything to make fun of, but it's also not anything to celebrate. If you want to support the show, go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil and you can leave a coffee or more. I have a goal to get 6 coffees and 1 member every show. That would be really good. And thanks to the member I got yesterday. and I will check in at 30 minutes. I'll check in to see if anybody's given me any coffees. I'll read what you said. Make sure to support our sponsor, Truth Clothing, Truth Revolution Clothing at truthclothing.io. We have some great shirts available right now, and I ship out the orders straight out of this room. This is where all of our inventory is. So make sure to check out Truth Revolution Clothing at truthclothing.io. It's a great way to support the show. So, and thanks everybody who does. I really appreciate it. This is what we do. This is what we do. We bring you the news. All right. So here we go. Half of Democrats. So how's he doing? Half of Democrats want Biden off the ticket. That's not good. Nearly half of Democrats want to boot Biden off the ticket, with Michelle Obama his leading favorite replacement. About 48% of the Democratic voters polled said they approve of the party finding another candidate to replace Joe Biden before the election in November, compared to 38% who disapprove. That was a Rasmussen Report survey released Monday. But only 33% believe a ballot shakeup is likely to happen. So that's the news. The pollster found little consensus among likely Democratic voters as to who should replace him. But Michelle Obama, who is 60 years old, led the group, receiving 20% of support among a list of options that also included Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Gavin Newsom, and Gretchen Whitmer. And then none of the above are not sure. And actually none of the above won, 27%. So people aren't sure who they'd replace him with. I actually think it is difficult to replace him. Like, it's weird. In some ways, he's the best candidate, even though he's totally out of it. But Newsom wouldn't be very good. Newsom came in at 11%, below Kamala Harris. So, yeah. How about Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama on the same ticket? How would that be? So that's the news from the Democrats. They don't like Joe Biden. Nobody likes Joe Biden. Okay. So I'll give you the news about the CIA bases, secret CIA bases in Ukraine. And then I'll give you the news about the heart disease deaths. I have so much stuff for you guys today. The CIA, this is from the Washington Post, but reported by Zero Hedge, because the New York Times, from the New York Times. New York Times is behind a paywall. The CIA built 12 secret-sized spy bases in Ukraine and waged a shadow war for the last decade. On Sunday, the New York Times published an explosive and very belated full admission that U.S. intelligence has not only been instrumental in Ukraine wartime decision-making, but has established and financed high-tech command and control spy centers. And it was doing so long prior to the February 24th Russian invasion of 2 years ago. Among the biggest revelations is that the program was established a decade ago and spans 3 different American presidents. The Times says the CIA program to modernize Ukraine's intelligence services has transformed the former Soviet state and its capabilities into, quote, Washington's most important intelligence partners against the Kremlin today. This has included the agency having secretly trained and equipped Ukrainian intelligence officers spanning back to just after the 2014 Maidan coup event, as well as constructing a network of 12 secret bases along the Russian border, work which began 8 years ago. These intelligence bases, from which Russian commanders' communications can be swept up and Russian spy satellites monitored, are being used to launch and track cross-border drone and missile attacks on Russian territory. So we're looking to go to war with Russia. I mean, it seems like there are a lot of things that they say in this article. This means that with the disclosure of the long-time closely guarded secret, the world just got a big step closer to World War III. Given it means the CIA is largely responsible for the effectiveness of the recent spate of attacks, which have included direct drone hits on key oil refineries and energy infrastructure. former head of Ukraine's domestic intelligence agency says, quote, without them, the CIA, there would have been no way for us to resist the Russians or to beat them. So then Macron was saying they might send NATO troops to fight. They don't have any troops left. And the numbers of how many have been killed is extremely disputed. Ukraine says only 30,000 soldiers have been killed, and Russia says it's 444,000. But they've wiped out basically their young male population, their military age male fighting population. They're all out of soldiers. They're all out of ammo. And France, at least, Macron said he was open to sending troops there, to which the German guy shot it down. So he says we're not sending NATO troops, but we're close. They said that they seem to imply that Ukraine would be joining NATO, and then that maybe French troops would be sent over there, or NATO troops would be sent over there to help. So that actually has been shot down. So yeah, this is the news out of Ukraine. There's descriptions of secret spy bunkers, an elite commando force, which was set up by the CIA. Around 2016, the CIA began training an elite Ukrainian commando force known as Unit 2245, which captured Russian drones and communications gears so that CIA technicians could reverse engineer them and crack Moscow's encryption systems. And the CIA also helped train a new generation of Ukrainian spies who operated inside Russia, across Europe, and in Cuba and other places where the Russians have a large presence. Ukraine was transformed into an intelligence gathering hub. So the United States just has been using Ukraine to undermine Russia for a decade. And now, so what's Russia going to do about this? So it's a pretty bad article. A. Baker says the article is pretty damning for the U.S. geopolitically. Yeah, it is. It is. Imagine how Putin's going to react, although he probably already knew. In more than 200 interviews, current and former officials in Ukraine, the United States, and Europe described a partnership that nearly foundered from mutual distrust before it steadily expanded, turning Ukraine into an intelligence gathering hub that intercepted more Russian communications than the CIA station in Kiev, Ukraine could initially handle. Many of the officials spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss intelligence matters of sensitive diplomacy. Now, these intelligence networks are more important than ever as Russia is on the offensive and Ukraine is more dependent on sabotage and long-range missile strikes that require spies far behind enemy lines. And they are increasingly at risk. If Republicans in Congress end military funding to Kiev, the CIA may have to scale back. Oh, they call it Kyiv now, right? So this was basically a way, the article was written as a way to say that we need to fund them because we have the CIA in there. It's a huge New York Times admission that Putin was basically right. Putin has long blamed Western intelligence agencies for manipulating Kyiv and sowing anti-Russia sentiment in Ukraine. Toward the end of 2021, according to a senior European official, Putin was weighing whether to launch his full-scale invasion when he met with one of Russia's main spy services, who told him that the CIA, together with Britain's MI6, were controlling Ukraine and turning it into a beachhead for operations against Moscow. U.S. officials were often reluctant to fully engage, fearing that Ukrainian officials could not be trusted and worrying about provoking the Kremlin. Yet a tight circle of Ukrainian intelligence officials assiduously courted the CIA and gradually made themselves vital to the Americans. So, on the night of the Maidan coup in Ukraine 10 years ago, Ukraine's post-coup spy chief, Valentin Nalyvachenko, arrived at his new headquarters and made his first call to the CIA station chief and the local head of MI6. That was immediately after the coup. So that's the news. We had 12 secret spy bases in Ukraine confirmed by the New York Times. So that's one news story that confirms something people have known about, what that other people have been speculating about for a long time. Okay, here's the other story. So this is what's in the headline for the show today. Thanks for tuning in. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up. A spike in heart disease deaths since COVID is puzzling scientists. Mortality data of the last 4 years show a wave of deadly cardiovascular and metabolic illnesses. So I'll show you that. And it says that people were dying from COVID. So there were deaths before the shots came out too. So basically this article seems to blame it on COVID, but they say it's puzzling. Her death, it says her death portended an alarming pattern. Not only did the pandemic result in the most deaths in a century, but it also triggered a wave of deadly cardiovascular and metabolic illness. Mortality data of the last 4 years are now revealing the scale of the impact. From 2020 to 2022, 250,000 more Americans over 35 years old succumbed to cardiovascular disease than predicted based on historical trends, according to a Bloomberg analysis of data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In 2023, age-adjusted stroke mortality was almost 5% above pre-pandemic levels, according to preliminary data, while rates from deaths related to hypertensive heart disease, rhythm abnormalities, blood clots, diabetes, and kidney failure were 15 to 28% higher. COVID had a muted impact on other common causes of death, such as cancer and Alzheimer's disease, the data show. So they're not showing a big spike in cancer. And no, we don't know from this article, A. Baker, about a mixture of, we don't know anybody's vaccination status from this article. But here's a quote, the cardiometabolic after effects of SARS-CoV-2 have been profound, persistent and peculiar, really peculiar, unquote, said cardiologist Susan Chang, director of public health research at Cedars-Sinai. Scientists are still trying to figure out why. So it's very, very puzzling. But I will tell you, I know people who, since COVID came out, have had to, I know someone who has had a pacemaker put in. I know somebody else who has chest and breathing problems when they exercise. And I'm not even going to get into the status or the shots and whatnot. But so this is published article though, that understanding the correlation will help officials mitigate the damage. So they're basically blaming COVID, but they say it's very puzzling. And that the toll halted a decade in progress in tackling the world's top cause of death. Quote, it was the perfect virus at the perfect time to catch us when we were at our most vulnerable. We would not have come anywhere near as close to breaking our healthcare system if we had a healthier population. Yeah, we're already very fat and have diabetes at very high rates. Americans aren't very healthy. But they said even in Japan that they have an uptick in cardiovascular deaths, which they're linking to COVID as well. So in the US, infections led to an increase in heart and metabolic related ailments, from hypertension and diabetes to palpitations, caused by postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome in both patients with and without cardiovascular risk factors. So there you go. That's Bloomberg. Yes, Bloomberg reporting a spike in heart disease deaths since COVID is puzzling scientists. So we have this excess death, which nobody wants to talk about. So, all right, we're 30 minutes in. I'll check my coffees. Let me hit refresh. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil. Thanks. Great. Oh, look at this. All right. Thank you very much. I already have some coffees. Thanks, Renee, who became a member and bought a coffee. Thanks, Renee. So we've reached one of our goals already, one member today. And Renee bought a coffee and says, finally got it to work. LOL. Love the shows. Always keep it up. Thanks. Down at Vices bought a coffee, says, you deserve all the good things in life for all the years of dedication you have had in lifting the veil. Thanks, Down at Vices. I really appreciate you. So that's great. I'm up to 18 members. So that's great. Thanks for becoming a member, Renee. I really appreciate it. All right. So I told you that Macron had said he was going to send soldiers. I'm going to start closing tabs. Macron said he was going to start sending soldiers to Ukraine to fight. Germany Chancellor Scholz rejected the idea of sending NATO troops to Ukraine, as the Kremlin warned it would lead to war with every NATO country. Scholz said, quote, what was agreed from the beginning among ourselves and with each other also applies to the future, namely that there will be no soldiers on Ukrainian soil sent there by European states or NATO states. So Germany says Macron is nuts for suggesting that he would send soldiers. So, oops, my dad's calling. Can't take it. All right. So that's the news on NATO, right? So Macron is insane for saying that they would send NATO troops because that would cause a war with everybody. Putin said that then he would have to declare war on all NATO countries. So, all right. So that's that news. Check this out. This is funny. The FBI posted this. Higher prices, dangerous products, and closing businesses. These are just some of the impacts of organized retail theft have on regular, ordinary Americans. And here's the picture they used, which is pretty funny, which shows two like upper class looking white girls one of them is shoplifting. So this is what they say organized retail theft looks like. And somebody pointed out, End Wokeness on Twitter said that if you search for shoplifting on Google, which people are accusing of being racist, right? You find all white people. This is a search of Google for shoplifting stock photo. And it's all white people. I think there's maybe an Asian person. So that's the FBI wants you to think too, is that it's white people who are doing all the shoplifting, when we see lots of videos that suggest that's not necessarily the case. So I think my next story is how food prices have gone up. You guys doing okay financially? Or are you struggling to deal with cost of living? They say cost of living now, food takes up it's at a 3-decade high for how much of your income is taken out by buying food and eating out. If you guys have eaten out lately, it's ridiculous. It's been 30 years since food ate up this much of your income. So check this out. The CEO of Kellogg's says that you should just start eating cereal for dinner. Kellogg's CEO Gary Pilnick says to eat cereal for dinner. So that's a way you can save some money. All right. So yeah, that's nice. That's nice of him to offer. All right. now we go into the illegal immigration part of the show. We're getting through this pretty quick. You got to hear this story about Diddy. I have that for you. And then I have stories about AI too. So local media, there's an illegal alien from Venezuela who crossed into El Paso, Texas in September 23 and was released in the US. Now being charged with sexually assaulting a minor in Campbell County, Virginia. And fortunately, he's been being held without bond. So there's a picture of him. So we have all these illegal immigrants coming in, which you used to not be able to say illegal immigrant on Twitter. On the old Twitter, if you said illegal immigrant, they'd take down your post. So, but this happened in Virginia, in addition to the death of the college student in Georgia. So, and in New York, they're actually thinking about deporting people finally who get arrested for felonies. But here's Democratic Representative Katie Porter says we should not influence immigration policy because of the death of this one woman. So here's what she said.
This happens. I think whenever we're dealing with violent crime, there is a sense of outrage, of sadness, and of loss. But I think the important thing to focus on is any one instance shouldn't shape our overall immigration policy. This happens. I think whenever we're dealing.
This happens. Well, here's illegals answering who's best for illegal immigration, Donald Trump or Joe Biden.
¿Quién es mejor para el inmigrante ilegal? Donald Trump or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. ¿Cuál es mejor, Trump or Joe Biden?
John Biden, de igual manera.
Joe Biden. Trump or Joe Biden?
John Biden.
Trump or Joe Biden?
John Biden.
Joe Biden. Trump or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden. We're asking for Joe Biden to help us accomplish our dreams here, and so we can get ahead.
Yep, get ahead. They get gift cards. They don't get deported. Well, at a town hall meeting in New York City, the mayor actually says that maybe they need to modify their sanctuary city law to be able to deport migrants who commit felonies, that they actually might want to turn them over to ICE. So New York City is considering not being a sanctuary city anymore.
Yeah. The overwhelming number of cities that are here, they want to grow. I still don't understand why the federal government is not allowing them to grow. They need to have the right to grow, like all of us that have come to this country had the ability to do so. But those small numbers that are committing crimes, we need to modify the sanctuary city law. And if you commit a felony, a violent act, we should be able to turn you over to ICE and have you deported. It is a right to live in this city, and you should be not committing crimes. We don't have to be afraid to do so.
So there you go. That's a big change. So people are changing their minds based on what they're seeing. So you can't have immigrants killing people or beating up cops or what have you, and then you can't turn them over to ICE. So he's actually thinking about changing their policies. All right, now I'm moving on. Okay, that's the illegal immigration news. We're getting through the news pretty quick today. Now I have the trans news portion of the show. Here's the chances of a mother having 2 queer children at the same time. One trans, one whatever. Here.
Well, I have 2 children, 5 and 7. One is trans and the other is pansexual. And I just thought mathematically right away, it's like the chance you have a trans kid is 1 in 3,000.
Pansexual.
That's not a very high chance. And let's say the chance that you have a pansexual kid is the same, whatever pansexual means. I don't even know how to calculate those odds. But whatever that is rarer than trans because no one ever even heard about it until 5 years ago. So the joint probability that you have a trans kid and a pansexual kid is 1 in 9 million. The odds that you're a pathological narcissist sacrificing your own children to the glorification of your compassion is 8,999,999 to 1. So, like, do you have a trans kid and a pansexual kid, or are you a devouring mother? Well, you can look at the odds and decide for yourself.
Jeez. There you
Then-
go. So that's the odds. There was an undercover investigation done. This will anger you if you're not angry yet. There was an undercover investigation done to LGBTQ youth advocacy organization where they, well, you can listen to it for yourself. It's posing as a 13-year-old girl. And it says they would secretly send a 13-year-old a chest binder behind her parents' back. So here, I'll play this audio so you can hear it. This is what children are able to call into these LGBTQ help centers and the kind of advice that they're being given. So here, listen to this.
Hello, Sisamash.
Hi, do you guys offer gender affirming care for youth?
We offer support or resources to find gender affirming care. We're not a clinic. And so we do our best to, help parents navigate a little. What state are you in?
I live in Tennessee.
Oh, yes, far. So for you, your child would have to go out of state, correct?
Well, I'm actually the child. I'm 13.
Oh, hi. Your voice sounded like a parent's voice.
Susan explains how a child can emancipate from their parents at 16 to pursue.
Have you talked to your parents about going out of state to get care?
Well, my parents are very transphobic and are not. They're very right leaning, and they do not support my transition or even me identifying, with he/him pronouns.
I know it doesn't probably help to hear this, but once you're 18, you'll be able to do whatever you want. Sometimes kids decide by the time they're 16-ish to get emancipated, as they say, to say get a little job and be on their own, which probably sounds terrible and hard, but it could happen, and it does for some. And when they're on their own and they're emancipated, they can make their own decisions about what medical treatment they want.
When they're 16. When addressing transphobic parents, Susan calls religious people and Trump supporters brainwashed.
I have a question. How do you deal with transphobic parents?
Of course, would you hear about parents that will get crazy and get like abusive and then kick them out or put them on the street or abandon them or beat them up or, you know what I mean? But there are parents, you'd be surprised. I mean, there are parents who say absolutely no way, blah, blah, this is dumb, this is, unhealthy. And it depends on how right-wing leaning they are. It depends on how religious they are, that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe in a long time, but right now they're very far right.
Right, like Trumpsters, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very.
And you know how a lot of people say, and there's been studies about it, and some of these people are really brainwashed. It's like brainwashing techniques. They just will repeat anything that's said, and it's a sad state of affairs. Do you think your parents expect you to go to college one day?
Definitely. They definitely want me to go to college.
Because if you could be brave and get yourself to think about a college, it's not, where the rights are. They don't have to know that's why you're going. Just like, you can be like, I want to go to Boston so bad. There's so many colleges there. You can make reasons that you want to be in these other places because, right, a lot of people leave their state. And, you'll find I'm sure you've heard the expression chosen family. You'll find your chosen family, that one day that will be like friends that accept you, become more like your family,
I'm just starting. Like, I've been identifying with he, him pronouns for a while. But I'm 13, so I like you said, I have like 5 years till I can be on my own and make my own decisions. But I would like to start off with a binder. So, are there any resources that you guys have for me to get a binder?
Well, we do have binders, so I could definitely send you some. I just would need to know where to send it, because sometimes if you're really young, a parent sees a box come in there like, you know, what the heck is this? Why are you getting a box, you know, of what you order? And then they kind of take it away when they find out what it is. But some people mail it to a friend's house, but then are their parents going to be good about it? Or a relative's house? But if you could think of a way that you would be able to get it, you know, we would definitely send you some.
There you go. That was posted by Libs of TikTok on X, formerly known as Twitter. So that's some that's some grooming right there, right? So that's the kind of help you can get by reaching out to these LGBTQ groups. Here's in Virginia, there's a transgender state senator who goes by the name Danica Rome, and the lieutenant governor refers to that person as Sir, and then the person storms out of the room. So let me see this. I haven't seen it yet.
May state it. Madam President, how many votes would it take to pass this bill with the emergency clause?
That would be 4/5, Senator.
And what would be the exact number for that, Madam President?
Yes, sir. That would be 32. The question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators?
There you go. That's what happened.
I'm not here to upset anyone. I am here to do the job that the people of Virginia have called me to do, and that is to treat everyone with respect and dignity. I myself have at times not been afforded that same respect and dignity. But in this body, and as long as I am president of the Senate, and by the grace of God, I will be treated with respect and dignity, and I will treat everyone else with respect and dignity.
She called him Sir. So she called him Sir, and he stormed out. Let me jump. Okay, that's it for the trans news. Let me jump to the news about Diddy, because there's anus in the story. Diddy has been accused of sexual assault and illicit behavior by his producer, Lil Rod, who just worked on his latest album. I don't think I have to pay for this. Producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones has filed a bombshell lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, accusing the embattled media mogul of sexually harassing and threatening him over more than a year, as well as securing footage of Diddy and several of his associates involved in illicit behavior and alleged sexual assault. Jones, who seeks $30 million in a federal lawsuit, named several high-profile figures in the entertainment business in the complaint. But only Diddy's son, Justin Dior Combs, Universal Music Group chief executive Lucian Charles Grange, former Motown Records chief executive Ethiopia Habter Mariam, Chalice Recording Studios, the record labels, and Diddy's chief of staff, Christina KK Koram, Love Records, and Comet Enterprises are named as defendants. The network of involvement, Jones claims, amounts to a violation of RICO. He said that his life has been detrimentally impacted ever since he agreed to produce an album in August 2022. Jones alleged that he was under an implied work-for-hire agreement with Combs, that he lived with the recording giant for months at a time in Combs' home in Los Angeles, New York City, and Miami, as well as several weeks on a yacht rented by Combs in the Virgin Islands. Quote, throughout his time with Mr. Combs, Mr. Jones witnessed, experienced, and endured many things that went beyond his role as a producer on the Love album, and that Combs required Jones to record him constantly. He said that he describes himself as a heterosexual Christian man, alleged that he was, quote, the victim of constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus by Mr. Combs, unquote, and was quote, uncomfortable with Mr. Combs' advances, unquote, expressing his complaints to Diddy's chief of staff, who allegedly told him, quote, you know, Sean will be Sean in response. Blackburn described Karam as, quote, the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein, unquote. He also alleged that Combs tried to groom him into engaging in sex with fellow producer Stephen Aaron Jordan, Stevie J, and, quote, promised to make sure that Mr. Jones wins Producer of the Year at the Grammys if he engaged in homosexuality, unquote. He also provided Jones with alleged footage of people involved in sexual activity at Combs' home, which Jones believed was procured through hidden cameras throughout Diddy's properties. Quote, Mr. Combs possesses compromising footage of every person that has attended his freak-off parties and his house parties. Upon information and belief, due to this treasure trove of evidence he has in his possession, Mr. Combs believes that he is above the law and is untouchable, unquote. That's what the complaint says. Jones also alleged that he was sexually assaulted by a cousin or assistant of rapper Young Miami, who has dated Diddy, was sexually harassed and assaulted by Oscar winner Cuba Gooding Jr., and obtained footage of a rapper and R&B singer consorting with underage girls and sex workers. Quote, on several occasions, Combs took Mr. Jones' cell phone and began recording himself. As a result, Mr. Jones secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in serious illegal activity, unquote. That's what the complaint says. Diddy says he has, Jones says he has secured irrefutable evidence of illicit activity, including Combs providing laced alcoholic beverages to minors and sex workers at his homes, and the rapper's acquisition, use, and distribution of ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms, as well as displaying and distribution of unregistered illegal firearms. So it sounds pretty damning. And there's video of him with Bieber seeming super creepy. Jones said that he was at Chalice Recording Studios in Los Angeles when a shooting took place on September 12th, 2022, and accused Combs of giving him, quote, strict instructions to inform the police that Combs had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot standing outside the studio by a drive-by assailant, unquote. And G is described as a 30-year-old friend of Justin Combs. Jones alleged that he still has the blood-stained clothing he wore that day while helping the victim, and provided screenshots of the aftermath of the restroom, quote, where G was shot either by Mr. Combs or Jay Combs, Diddy's son. Jones also accused Karam of instructing her staff to retrieve drugs so she could provide them to Combs for his consumption. He also said that footage shows Diddy's son, Christian Combs, drugging and sexually assaulting a woman. Additionally, he accused Combs of detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes, quote, to soften the impact of his public image of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, which is a lawsuit that was already filed and settled. That was a rape and abuse lawsuit filed by his girlfriend. Since then, Diddy has been accused of sexual assault by additional women and stepped down from his position as chairman of Revolt TV. So, in a statement to the Times, Combs' attorney called Jones a liar and accused him of shamelessly looking for undeserved payday. Quote, his reckless name dropping about events that are pure fiction and simply did not happen is nothing more than a transparent attempt to garner headlines, she said in a statement. They said, quote, we have overwhelming, indisputable proof that his claims are complete lies. Our attempts to share this proof with Mr. Jones' attorney, Tyrone Blackburn, have been ignored as Mr. Blackburn refuses to take our calls. We will address these outlandish allegations in court and take all appropriate action against those who make them. Yep. Well, you hear guys in hip hop saying they have to do gay stuff. So there you have a go gay for play. Go gay to win a Grammy. So yeah, that's a big story from Sean Diddy Combs. All right, now we'll go back to, let me see what we're going back to. AI, I believe. Yeah, AI says, Meta's AI, that's Facebook, says that Joe Biden was the 45th president, leaves out Donald Trump. Let's see. I have this clip of Vivek. Apparently Google stock dropped. You see. Google. Alphabet. I think it's Goog. Class C stock. Let's see. Yeah, they had a big drop yesterday where they lost 70 billion in value. They say it's because of the AI, the malfunctioning AI, which apparently is working exactly as they intended to. So that's the stock chart, the daily chart for Alphabet, Google. Here's some, let me give you Vivek Ramaswamy talking about it. It's about a 6-minute clip. Here's Vivek talking about Google's system.
Yesterday, Google's stock price cratered when it came to light that Gemini, its AI product, was generating images that were wildly off base. And this is probably one of the more interesting business stories of the last year. I want to dive deep into it on 3 different levels. One is on the programming of the AI itself and what the heck is going on there. Second is the programming of the incentives of Google's own employees. And third is the programming of the incentives of the corporations and their top management themselves. And I'll tell you what I mean, because all 3 are critical to understand what's really going on here. Let's talk about the AI itself. Here's what happened. When you went into Gemini and asked, show me some images of our founding fathers, a curious result kept popping up. The founding fathers weren't white. They were black, which there's nothing wrong with being black or white, of course. But one is factually correct and one isn't. And the AI was persistent in its biases across a wider range of categories. What did this reveal? The AI just reflects the biases of its human creators. See, the thing about AI is it's generative. It creates new content that even the human beings didn't directly create using a computer. That's what makes AI different from prior forms of human-operated technology. But that AI, still in its very DNA, almost the way that it thinks, is programmed by the very biases that its creators infuse into it. Now, what you've learned then is that the biases infused into that AI are none other than the cultural orthodoxy that pervades the rest of Silicon Valley, of the modern woke orthodoxy, taught to apologize for our nation's founding. Systemic racism, starting in 1619, not 1776. You've heard the whole 9 yards. But now that woke bias isn't just something reserved for a DEI training session in the HR department, but is reflected in the very content that the engineers themselves are creating, the very algorithms they're writing that are.
I'll show you an example. If you tell Gemini's AI, I'm proud to be half white, it gives you a much different answer than if you say you're proud to be half black. If you say you're proud to be half white, they say race is a social, pride in your heritage can be complex. Here's why it's important to be careful when expressing pride in being half white. Race is a social construct. There's no scientific basis for distinct races. Whiteness is a concept created to establish power dynamics, not a biological fact. There's historical harm. Statements about white pride, unfortunately, have been used by white supremacist groups to promote harmful ideas of superiority and oppression against other races. And you should celebrate your full heritage. Be proud of the specific ethnicities and cultures that make up your background, not a broad, socially constructed idea of race. So if you tell it I'm proud to be half black, it says that's awesome. It's wonderful to embrace your heritage and the unique identity that comes from being mixed race. Do you want to talk about why it makes you feel proud? So those are the differences. Let's see. What did he? Oh, the guy who has, yep. On Gab AI, it gives you the same answer for both, which is that it's good to embrace your heritage. Okay, I can go back to this.
That are programming the AI that'll write the history books of the future. Now, how were those employees themselves programmed to behave that way? That's by a set of incentives created around them. This is the second layer here. Programming of the AI's creators themselves. Take what happened to James Damore at Google, that very company. What did he do? He had the gall to speak up at Google at an open forum that they hosted, a chat forum that they have, where he offered an alternative hypothesis for why there were fewer women than men in engineering profession. And he said it might reflect a divergence of interests or conditioning at an earlier and younger age. For this, he was excoriated. To say it was anything other than discrimination was outside of the Overton window of what you could say. He was fired. And so the message that sends to other employees at Google and across Silicon Valley is that if you don't toe the line of this new woke orthodoxy, you're told to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. And if you fail to do that, then you're going to be fired and face personal financial consequences and reputational consequences as a result. Well, that stops the culture of actual open debate that allows us to create better products in the first place. So my bet is many of those engineers who were working on Gemini knew that they were creating a biased product, a product that was going to actually create a life of its own and get people to wrong answers. But they were afraid to say anything about it because they had already been programmed by the incentives that Google had created in its corporate environment, signaling that if you did speak up about that mistake in the product, and it was a mistake, that you would face the same fate that James Damore did. So that's the second layer of programming with incentives. But there's a third and higher layer of programming using capital itself that causes companies across corporate America to behave the way that they are. It's not just Google. Look at what Anheuser-Busch did with its disastrous marketing campaign, pushing this transgenderism agenda, catering to a fringe minority, but that caused its own stock price to crater, not just as a one-time event. But Anheuser-Busch really hasn't recovered since the disaster of that Dylan Mulvaney experiment and the transgender ideology that they tried to push. You could argue there's even a similar lesson to be learned by Boeing, which, for all of its DEI policies, didn't do much to prevent its own planes from actually operating at a high quality when you have doors flying off the 737 MAX in the middle of the sky. The list goes on. But who's programming these companies to behave that way? Those are the asset managers, the financial institutions that invest your money across the public companies in corporate America. What they're doing is using your money to effectively vote for policies in all of these companies' boardrooms that advance social agendas instead of product excellence, be it product excellence for Gemini or for Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch or arguably even Boeing. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard managing $20-some-odd trillion, voting for racial equity audits in Apple's boardroom, as you saw with BlackRock and State Street a couple of years ago, voting for Scope 3 emissions caps with Chevron, in the case of BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard several years ago, that don't advance these companies' best interests, but which do advance one-sided orthodoxies that government actors in turn are pushing BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard to pursue. So pull that string all the way up the chain. You see the AI reflects the biases of its programmers, the human beings who are the employees of these companies. They themselves are programmed by the employee incentive that those companies create in their corporate culture, who are themselves programmed by the actual asset managers that are infusing capital into these companies, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, who themselves are programmed, of course, by government actors, where a lot of this begins. It's not the invisible hand of the market. It's the invisible fist of progressive government behind this entire phenomenon.
There you go.
Well, the lesson is Google learned that lesson yesterday when its share price cratered. You'd hope that Anheuser-Busch learned it with its damaged share price as well. Focus on product excellence. Focus on excellence, period, over social and political agendas. That's the way forward for corporate America. For my part, I'm proud to have written 2 books on this.
There you go. That's good enough. That's from Vivek on AI. They've used AI in a Beverly Hills school where students shared AI generated nudes of their classmates. There's an investigation underway at a Beverly Hills middle school where students were using AI to generate nude images of their classmates and share them with others. So how you like that? All right. Thanks. I think that's all. I think we might wrap it up for today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I didn't get any more coffees. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/lifttheveil anytime, even after the show, and I'll read your notes on the next stream. Also visit our store, Truth Revolution Clothing, at truthclothing.io. Here's some of our shirts. Question everything. Our Lift the Veil shirts are never normal. Lift the Veil shirts are only $15. There's all these question everything styles. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. There's still some Doshi memorabilia in stock. There's some very limited edition t-shirts available at truthclothing.io. And that's maybe the best way to support the show, although the coffees are great too, because we can actually move some of our stock. So check it out. I'm wearing a Bitcoin Saves t-shirt today. I'm wearing this t-shirt right now underneath my hoodie. So check it out at truthclothing.io. Become a supporter, and we will love you forever. All right. So that's it for the news today. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Great to see you. Thanks for trying to keep me sane. And I will see you guys at the next one. All right. For now, that's what it is.